finally here. Last game week of the year for Ole Miss football against Texas Tech. Texas Bowl, under a week away. We'll see how it goes.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for tuning in on this Friday. We are now under a week away from the Texas Bowl and under a week away between players reporting for the Under Armour All-American game, which I will go see. I will go cover Suntarine Perkins and Aiden Williams and talk about their exploits during the week. So I'm pretty excited about that. But for the time being, you can see down below, Ole Miss a 3-point favorite over Texas Tech, over under at 69.5. The game is at 8 o'clock at night Central on ESPN, December 28th. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, let's talk keys to the game, because looking into the weeds and what's going on, I'm going to be perfectly honest. For the most of the year, I did not watch much Texas Tech football. Today, I dove into them for the first time and saw a couple of things that, we're going to learn about the Red Raiders together, but there's a couple of things that I saw in this game that have just revealed themselves to be keys. Now, first of all, Ole Miss needs to find a way to run the ball. Texas Tech is better at stopping the run than stopping the pass, so that common sense would tell you to throw the ball to open up the offense, because that's the weakness. But your strength is Quinshon Judkins and Zach Evans, and those guys running the football. You don't want to get away from your strength just to placate somebody else's weakness. You need to see if you can be successful running the football against a fairly good rushing team. Now, as a part of them being a good run defense team, they're pretty good in the red zone, and we are awful in the red zone, and we have been awful in the red zone pretty consistently the last 3 weeks of the season. So I think that is something that we are going to need to watch. Run the football, run it well, make sure it can work, so hopefully the red zone problems don't reappear. Because if you get a not so timely penalty, if you get long yardage behind the sticks inside the red zone, it could be problematic for this team moving forward. Now, you've heard me say for the last 3 weeks that I do want Ole Miss to throw the ball more. That is still correct. What I'm saying about the run game is don't give up on the run game just because the weakness is the other side. Instead of it being 70-30 run pass, maybe you're 60-40. That's what I want the spread to look like in this game. Texas Tech's a good fundamental team, and they have a couple of guys offensively that has a little bit of wiggle. They're aggressive. They're violent. But I think they can be had. They're good, and they could be problematic, and they can cause trouble. But on the other side of the coin, they're a team that you can get. I watched this Oklahoma game, okay? That is what I started with, the Oklahoma game, which was at the end of the season. And Oklahoma up 14-0, went for a fake field goal or something like that was unsuccessful. So that was points that was completely scrubbed off. And they still ended up being up maybe 24-6, 17-0, somewhere in there. But they had a chance to completely rout this game. So what we need to learn from this, and the run game is going to help with that, if we can make that go and have quality red zone trips, you can make it to where it's less likely that Texas Tech can come back. Because Texas Tech is an explosive team offensively. They play fast. There's two teams that's going to play fast on both sides of the field. It could be a play count on both sides over 80 plays. It could be something where time of possession, nobody cares about time of possession. And Texas Tech throws the football. Tyler Shuck, the kid from Oregon transfer, he can be erratic throwing the football at times, but he can also be pretty good. He's an inconsistent type quarterback, but he has a chance to have the A game that is problematic for you, if that makes sense. He is like that shooter in the NCAA tournament, right? That is a 11 point a game average shooter, but in your, all of a sudden he can't miss. And he ends up at 25, and their team's in the game against you, against the NCAA tournament. And you're in a last 5-minute football game because this one player got really, really hot. I think Tyler Shuck can do that. That is what I saw at the beginning of the Oklahoma game. It was not there. Very erratic, missing short passes. They do a little roll stuff like, think early Art Briles, Houston Art Briles. Don't know what they evolved to in Baylor, but think about Houston. I think that's part of their offense. Lots of shotgun, half rolls, things like that to hit like receivers on like arrow screens and things like that. So they have a unique scheme. Joey McGuire is a high school legend in the state of Texas, and they are a very fundamentally sound team. They're a team that is not going to beat themselves. You have to beat them, pretty much. And they are willing to take chances that I've noticed. I've looked on there. I think the first play of the Oklahoma game was going to be a reverse. That gives you an insight to their thinking and what they're looking at. And so you have to be ready for just about anything with Texas Tech. They don't beat themselves. They throw the ball a ton. And they're pretty good at stopping the run, and they're good in the red zone. That's kind of what you need to know about Texas Tech over this weekend. Because we're going to let this marinate a little bit, and then come Monday, we're going to do a crossover with the Locked On Red Raiders people, and we'll see how it goes for a little bit later. But as we learn about Texas Tech, those are the key things that we need to remember, right? So I want to see Ole Miss try and run the football. I want to see Jaxson Dart be efficient in the middle of the field. I mean, I know we've said this over and over and over again this season, but Ole Miss's offense can be so much more effective if the middle of the field is utilized. It'll be interesting to see exactly what happens. Is Jalen Robinson finally going to be healthy enough to play? Is he going to have a role in the game? Is Jordan Watkins going to have that role in the slot receiver game to where the middle of the field, he can actually make the linebackers hurt a little bit? Schematically, they're going to try and take some things away from us, but I think they're going to try and take away the run game because Quinshon Judkins is 150 yards away from the SEC freshman rushing record. I mean, he's going to pass Nick Chubb probably somewhere in the first quarter, and then it's whether or not he gets to Herschel or not. So that'll be interesting as well. I mean, that is a big number for somebody, for a school that has had the same rushing record until this year since like 1948 or 1949. To have somebody break out like this as a true freshman is absolutely remarkable. So the keys that you need to remember in the game is obviously run the football, even though Texas Tech is a strong run-stopping team. If we can run the football, we'll be all right. Eric Gray ran for 161 yards. Oklahoma ran for a little over 200 in that game. Now, throwing the ball, the temptation is going to be there to throw the ball. I think Texas Tech can be got in the secondary. And receivers like Jonathan Mingo, like Malik Heath, have a chance to have a really big day in Houston. But I don't think they need to overly lean on it. You don't want to look like the beginning of the Arkansas game. You want to do what you do and then do what you do off of it. You want the pass game to be a complementary play to a solid run game, because if that happens, Ole Miss is in the driver's seat. If you come out and try and throw the ball 50 times in a football game, it's probably going to be problematic because that's not what you normally do. I mean, it is what it is. When we come back, we're going to talk about the players that we're going to be watching in this football game as well. But first, we want to tell you about the holiday season impaired driving read from NHTSA. Did you know that driving high is considered driving under the influence? That's right. Driving under the influence of marijuana is against the law in every state, even in states where marijuana is legal. That means driving high could get you a DUI. And you think law enforcement can't tell when you're driving high? You're wrong. Your friends can tell. Your coworkers can tell. Your parents can tell. Everyone can tell. So what makes you think law enforcement officers don't know when you're driving high? Driving under the influence of marijuana can slow your response time and change how you perceive time and speed. So even if you think you're fine to drive when you're high, you're not. Because the bottom line is, if you feel different, you drive different. And driving high is driving under the influence. So remember, drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by the NHTSA. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. It's Locked On Sports Today. It's available in this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, in the first segment of the show, we talked about some keys and some things that you need to know about the Texas Red Raiders and how Ole Miss is potentially going to go after them. Now we're going to talk about a couple of players that we should keep an eye on. And if things are going well, Zach Evans and Quinshon Judkins, they probably are having a day. I think Ole Miss is going to try and run the football. It is what they do. Texas Tech might be good at it, but I don't think Ole Miss is going to completely take the bait of just air raiding it. They're going to try and run the football. If they can't, that could be problematic. Now, passing to open up the run, there's a possibility there. But if it goes normal to where Ole Miss can have success running the ball early with Quinshon Judkins and Zach Evans, Ole Miss has a major advantage. Not only in the fact that it keeps the time and the clock running, which would be beneficial for the Ole Miss Rebels in this game, but it puts you in a situation to where you just have complete control. You control the tempo. Everything is the Ole Miss Rebels in this game. And so we'll see exactly how they do that. Now, some other players that I am looking forward to watching because they are going to be keys to the game. I think the box safeties, Ladarius Tennison, Isheem, Otis Reese, those guys will be major players in this football game. And when you look at Texas Tech statistics, they have 2 rushers over 600 yards. Nothing overly dramatic. They like to throw the ball a bunch, but everybody is running the ball in Ole Miss this season. So Ole Miss has to figure out a way to stop them from running the football. I could see Texas Tech lining up in some 2 tight end sets from time to time and running the football and trying to pound Ole Miss. So it's going to be imperative that Isheem, Ladarius Tennison, Otis Reese, those guys are extremely physical players and takes care of the Texas Tech run game. Because if they are allowed to run the ball at all, this is going to be problematic for Ole Miss, because this is a situation you can completely break your pass defense to try and shore up a run defense. It happened to Arkansas this year. So be careful with what's going on. Understand that and know that we have to stop the run. I don't know what you do in this situation. Maybe you get a little bit bigger from time to time on the outside. We'll see exactly how it goes. Now, for players like Troy Brown, Malik Heath, Jared Ivey. I know Heath has played in a bowl game before, but like Jared Ivey and Troy Brown, this is likely the biggest game that they've played in. I think Troy Brown might have played in the Sun Bowl. I think they went to the Sun Bowl. I mean, that's close to the Texas Bowl. I mean, it's a historic game, but this is going to be a huge game for some people. And Ole Miss not having any opt-outs, that tells you about the culture inside that locker room of what it means to them to play the game, which is important because they've instilled that. Because you look all over the country and people are saying their games that are left on their schedule does not matter because it could possibly interfere with their chance to make some money individually after the game. I mean, that's what opting out is. It's basically admitting that I am worried about getting hurt. I'm scared of getting hurt. And because of that, I'm just not going to risk it this one game. Never mind the fact that the same thing could have happened against Mississippi State or against Alabama, against Arkansas. All through the season, you could have been hurt at any point in time. It's not a win type situation. So I get it. And also see the other side of it, because players should be able to opt out, because coaches have been opting out of this game for 40 years. So it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of another. That's the reason there needs to be a third people that look after the school. The school is what they're interested in. They're not interested in coaches. They're not interested in players. They're interested in the school, and they're interested in protecting that school. And I think that's going to be important whenever all of this money is throwing around through NIL and coaches' salaries, and all of this can go on because somebody needs to be looking after the school. They're the ones that's going to be on the hook for all of this stuff. Somebody needs to be looked after them. So, in the last segment of the show, we're going to have Tom Vanderford coming on for his weekly update, talking Ole Miss to Texas Bowl early signing day, all of that good stuff. But those are some players that we are looking forward to watch. We're going to dig into this more as next week is right around the corner. So it should be pretty interesting. I've got a very busy week after Christmas with the Texas Bowl on Wednesday, pregame show before it, postgame show after it, and the next day I'm off to media days for the U.S. Army All-American game, and I'm going to try and get interviews with Suntarine Perkins and Aiden Williams. So that is very important stuff. But we're going to talk to Tom Vanderford right after this. Stick around. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. So do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, and upvote the video itself. Participate in the conversation down below. I'm here with Tom Vanderford for his weekly segment. Last segment before Christmas, Tom. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone. Signing day was kind of a mixed bag because I consider Suntarine Perkins to be a generational level recruit for Ole Miss. And that could get lost in the weeds a little bit thanks to Marcel Reed and Neil Avery. But I don't think people need to forget about Perkins. I don't think people need to forget about Aiden Williams. And I don't think people need to forget about Jamarius Brown. So it's kind of a mixed bag where you can be really happy about that part of it, and you could be really upset about this part of it, and they're both right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, this is just my opinion, but that's what we're all about, right?
Mm-hmm. Perspectives.
I think, exactly. I think Lane Kiffin treats this whole thing like the NFL. I think he had a certain number of draft picks he was willing to take, and I think he's going to do the rest with what he would call free agency. I don't know if we'll get everybody he wanted to get. I do think that the flirting with Auburn caused some panic with some recruits. Not all of them, but with some of them. And obviously, by what happened, a couple of them weren't able to be reassured, or they got better deals, or whatever the case is. In my opinion, you need to sign a quarterback in every class, especially in our case right now. I mean, right now, you've got Altmaier transferring. You've got Dent saying he's done. You've got one scholarship quarterback and a couple of walk-ons. That's it. So that's scary. I remember, nothing against David Morris. He's a good guy. But I remember, when Roe Miller got hurt right before the Egg Bowl, and all we did was run deuce the whole game, and they stacked the box, and it got really ugly. You have to have some backup there. So my hope is, which this is just my hope, perspectives, right, that Altmaier sees what's out there and decides to stay. That's my hope.
Yeah.
As far as I know, the only place he's visited is Illinois. I don't know that he may have visited more, but I think that's the only P5 school that I'm aware of that he has visited. So now that things are thinner at quarterback, that's something for him to look at. But Marcel Reed, I wanted him.
Mm-hmm.
I really
did.
I'm not going to lie. I wanted the guy.
He's a good player.
He was very impressive. Neo Avery, I wanted him too, but when you look at his weight and height, what you've been talking about us getting maybe thicker guys for those three down line positions, that I think that we can be better serviced replacing Neo in the portal with a bigger guy. There's a lot of good rush ends out there. I still, I have not heard anything about the tight end from Maryland. I
Yeah.
haven't anyway. I know he visited us. He visited Alabama, and I haven't heard a word. But it would be nice. I'd still like to get that guy. That's a guy that you don't have on your team. That's a he could help us. As far as other gets, Suntarian Perkins is a mixture of Tony Connor and Nakobe Dean, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. He is a stud. And, like Lane said, he said, heck, I might let him run the ball some. He's like you said, he's a generational athlete. Aiden Williams is one of the top receivers in the country. We need him. If we can somehow get Marshall, I think we're helped at the wide receiver spot. I don't think we're done at the wide receiver spot. I think we've got multiple receivers we may attempt to get in the portal. Jean Baptiste, I watched him play a lot this year because I'm a Plumlee fan. Mm-hmm. And, he was a defensive team captain for UCF. He's a good hitter, hard hitter. He looked like he was pretty quick. And he was, I'm going to say about 230. So that's the kind of big linebackers you need with this 3-2-6. What I love about Perkins is he can play just about anything. Yeah. He can play linebacker. He can play box safety. He's actually the perfect box safety.
Yeah.
But it's just, and you don't want to let that. We got a really good legacy commit in Bryson Sanders. We got some good secondary help. The kid from South Georgia and the kid from Texas.
AJ Brown.
We didn't do too. Yeah, we didn't do too bad. But it blows my mind, and we've conversed about this on Twitter. Mm-hmm. It blows my mind that people are going nuts. He's doing the same thing he did last year. Now, I'll say he may have a harder time with some of them convincing them that he's going to be at Ole Miss for the long haul because of the flirting this year. Mm. But he's doing the same thing he did last year. Last year we didn't know about Troy Brown. We didn't know about Pegues. We didn't know about Ivy. We don't
Jaxson
know
Dart and Trigg. Yeah.
Jaxson Dart and Trigg, very good examples. Mm-hmm. We didn't know for sure if we were going to get our house running back, and we ended up with two. I think he just approaches this with a different mindset. I got a buddy of mine at work. I'm not busting on state, but he's like, man, y'all paid $9 million for your coach, and we ain't paid half that, and we have a better recruiting class. I'm like, dude, they may all pan out, but 20 of your 24 signees were 3-stars, man. And that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And there's some of their guys I wanted. I really wanted Kelly bad, man. But after seeing him show out in the Mississippi-Alabama All-Star game. But you just don't get everybody. Some kids want to go to state. Some want to go to Ole Miss. But in my opinion, we got the top 3 players in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, we absolutely
got an awesome edge rusher that showed up and showed out in the Mississippi-Alabama All-Star game. We got the best player on the field in the Mississippi-Alabama All-Star game. And we got an awesome wide receiver who was also, in the Mississippi-Alabama All-Star game. Yeah, everybody in the SEC wanted these three guys, and I think people need to understand in the past few years, there was a time when Hugh Freeze and Dan Mullen were at Ole Miss and State that the majority of the Mississippi kids stayed in state. Then there was a time where the high-ranking Mississippi kids went elsewhere. Up until this year, they went to LSU, they went to Alabama, they went somewhere else. But I'm ecstatic with the kids we got. I mean, they're all high motor kids. They're high 3 stars and 4 stars. Now, for the life of me, I can't see why Javante Connor is not a 4-star.
Well, I can tell you why. It's because he moved from Alabama to North Carolina, and he just fell between the cracks.
I believe that. I believe that because when I see him, I see talent.
Yeah.
I see talent. I see somebody that can help us,
He got rated a 3-star because he committed to Ole Miss, because it was an SEC school.
Nope.
Not because he was evaluated.
Well, that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. That happens, and for people to say it doesn't, these pay services, they're going to cater to the guys, the upper echelon people. But look, here's my argument with that. Look at all the 4 and 5 stars that are transferring from Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. Look at all the 4 and 5 stars that are in the portal from Alabama. Just because somebody gives you a 4th or 5th star doesn't necessarily mean they're correct. Mm-hmm. The best running back in 2022 as a freshman was obviously our running back, Quinshon Judkins, in the whole freaking country. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a 3-star. Mm-hmm. A 3-star. So you never know. So, our staff is built to where they can do good evaluations, I think. There's so many people working on film, and it's not like when, and you could answer to this. It's not like when Ed Orgeron was there and he had hardly no recruiting budget at all.
And he recruited off rivals rankings.
2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
Huh?
He was recruiting off rivals rankings and what their ankles looked like. Seriously, I'm not even joking about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I believe it. It. We're in a lot better place, and we've got a lot of good people coming back. So as far as all that goes, I'm excited. I'm excited about the Texas Bowl, and I'll tell you why. I was reading about you watching film, and I watched a little bit of their games, and they are extremely disciplined. Mm-hmm. They run, like you said, and I'm going to give you credit because you said it, but you're right. They run like a fun high school offense. I
saw the oop to you. They ran the oop to you.
Yeah.
It was like Varsity Blues out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's going to be a fun game to watch. I think we have more talent than they do. But I think we had more talent than Arkansas and Mississippi State. And we saw how that went. So,
yeah, if we play sloppy, they will beat us. And there's no getting around that. I mean, we have to play well.
Yes. We do. I'm thankful that we haven't. One thing that I've noticed this year that's different from last year, you don't see as many opt-outs as last year or the year before. Did you notice that?
Yeah, and you're seeing more opt-ins. Yeah. More opt-ins, too. More opt-ins, like Will Anderson and all them making a point to do it. I think somebody from, it might be Tennessee or somebody else, or Clemson in the Orange Bowl. Oh, Byron Young from Tennessee is going to play in the bowl game, and then after that is declaring for the NFL draft. I like to see that. That is good for college football because in the end, college football is what we care about. Nobody cares about any kid that's going to chase an NFL bag. They're caring about their school and their program and the kids that play for their teams. When they choose not to do that, that is going to be a problem for people that care about that school. It's not that they don't care about the kid. They just care about the school more.
Well, I agree. Mm-hmm. When you like the receiver from Tennessee, I can't think of his name, but he's their best receiver. I think he won the Biletnikoff Award. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's opting out of the Orange Bowl. and you hate to see that because they need the kid, And I'm just proud that we haven't had any. Of course, we don't really have any number one picks to opt out, but I mean, you look at Ed Mingo's a solid second day pick, and he's had some injury problems. If he was selfish, he could say, "Hey,
Zach Evans is probably the best player on the team. And Zach Evans, not only hasn't decided whether or not he's going to be back or forth or whatever's going to happen, but if he is going to go to the NFL draft, he was playing in the bowl game regardless. And this is a Texas Bowl. This is a, quote, meaningless bowl game that it obviously means something to him. And I always talk about when people say it's a meaningless bowl game, it's an exhibition. Well, it might be meaningless to Zach Evans. You know who it's not meaningless to? Kincaid Dent. Somebody that this is a memory that they're going to live through the rest of their life. And they're going after their NFL bag is a selfish decision, in my opinion, because of how it affects those middling guys that this is the end of their career. This is how the road ends.
Oh, I completely agree. I completely agree. I don't think Kincaid will come back, but he could. Yeah. He's got another year, but it'll be interesting to see about that. Like I said, I worry about quarterback depth. I'm not worried at all about running back depth.
No, not even a little bit.
Receivers worry me, but it can be fixed. But on defense, man, I mean, all of a sudden we've got some depth at linebacker. And that's nice. So, and I think people forget some of the guys we got last year.
Yeah, we
didn't. Some people are hitting the portal and getting those transfer fifth-year guys, ones and dones. And a lot of the guys we got in the portal, they were sophomores.
Yeah.
And we didn't just get them for 1 year. We got them for, to build a team. So
yeah, potentially 3 years like Trig and Dart. If it builds that, I mean. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
You get the Gatorade National Player of the Year for 3 years. Yeah, sign me up for that all day long.
Oh, same here. We've never had that.
Yeah.
I mean, the kid was and he's gotten better every game this year. I submit to you that if he would have had all the snaps from the beginning, he would have been really good. We may have won those last 2 games.
Yeah, that quarterback competition charade kind of bit us at the end. I honestly believe that. It especially against Alabama, because he was almost there. If the Jaxson Dart that played against Mississippi State played against Alabama, Ole Miss wins that game.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And we've just I'd still like to get a real center.
Yeah.
Nothing against our 2 guards that played center, but and I will say this that our kid from Nanawaya got better at the end of the year.
Yeah, Caleb got
better. He got better. Yeah, but I would, there's got to be a true center out there. But this is the fun time, though.
Yeah.
Used to, you'd have this big build-up to signing day. It'd be over with. Now it's like the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
You got the portal. You got late signing day. You got all this stuff that's going on.
Yeah,
you got NIL.
Recruiting is the jelly of the month club.
Giving to NIL. Sir?
Recruiting is the jelly of the month club.
Oh, yeah.
It's the gift that keeps giving the whole year round.
That's true. Just had to get that Christmas vacation.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting ready for Christmas. Yeah. Well, anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with the local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Tom, I want to wish everybody, you and yours, a Merry Christmas. I hope everybody gets through well. I hope your next checkup goes really well, all of that stuff. And maybe we can get a win next week in the Texas Bowl and next week I'm going to be busy like crazy, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep. Yeah, can't wait. And hey, to you and yours and to everybody out there, y'all have a Merry Christmas. And remember the reason for the season, man.
That's
y'all
right.
have a good one.
All right. Merry Christmas, everyone.